Rutland, 155 Thomas Powell Boulevard. Again, I still haven't captured the whole reserve clause. Now, I know that we have there's supposed to be a 4% reserve, and the way I'm looking at it, right now, we got 30 million. And I was just curious as to the unappropriated fund balance, the 4% would be $66.5 million of your total budget. And it says reserves total, this is for 2017, June 30, so these are actuals. Reserve total was 28,700,000. And then it says the unappropriated is 64. And then it says the appropriated fund balance is 5.5. And then you added it all together and it came to 40 million. Now, if we're only supposed to be carrying 4%, I don't understand how we carrying 40 million. And the other thing was on the encumbrances. This is for 2018. We had a drop of $3.5 million in encumbrances. And I watched NASCAR last year. One of the drivers had Joe Logano had an encumbered wing, and I never knew what an encumbered wing was. And I don't know what a reserve for encumbrances are. So,
Sure, I just want to make sure those are your questions, Roy? Just
Sure.
get the 3 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. All right. So your first question had to do with the 4%, and
Yes.
the districts, any school districts legally required maximum of 4%. Each of the individual reserve accounts carry laws or regulations that govern the amount of money that can go into any one of them. The one that you're referring to with regard to the 4% is only the unappropriated fund balance. So the $6.6 million is 4% of the upcoming school year's budget, which is why we have 4.6 point.
that's a separate reserve.
It's called the unappropriated fund balance. It's capped at 4% because people sometimes refer to it as a rainy day fund. It's the only reserve or the only source of funds that are able to be used for any purpose as denominated by the Board of Education. Every other reserve account has specific laws and regs that specifically say how much money is allowed to be in any given one of them. But there are also specific laws and regs that say exactly what the intended purpose of that money is for. The reason why there's the 4% cap on the unappropriated is because it could be used for any purpose. And that's why they've capped that one. So what you're looking at is the total is not 4%, it's 4% for that particular one reserve item. The second question that you had asked had to do with the reserve for encumbrance, which is a good question. Simply put, an encumbrance or a reserve for encumbrance is established at the end of a fiscal year when you have additional costs that you've already created purchase orders for. You already have a requirement to pay for those costs because you've already set up a purchase order, but you haven't actually cut the check, or the work hasn't been completed associated with that particular purchase order. So I'll give you an example. You come to year end and you have to replace a flooring system in a classroom. You cut the purchase order on June 15th. June 30th comes. That's the end of our fiscal year, and you haven't done the work. The vendor hasn't actually come to do the work. You put the money, $50,000 in a reserve for encumbrance, and then you pay it in the following year. So the difference that you're noting there is predicated on circumstances where certain expenses wind up rolling into the next year, and this year, in projecting the drop to 528, we don't believe that we're going to have anywhere near the same number of expenses that wind up rolling into the following year. That's all that difference really shows you.
Okay. So each one of these reserves is a separate entity in itself.
Yes.
Okay, so the 4% is only into the unappropriated.
Yes.
Ma'am? Thank you. I call for a motion to meet in executive session to discuss a specific personnel matter in accordance with open meetings law.
I make a motion to go into executive session in accordance with